Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Path to Reason. I'm your host, Cindy Plaza, and tonight I have the great pleasure to have Michael the Magnificent with me. Hi,
Michael
Ethan.
the Magnificent.
Hi, Ethan.
Oh, thanks
Yeah,
for
it's,
having
it's
me again, Cindy. It's nice.
yeah, no, it's great to have you. Yeah, Michael the Magnificent is a reference to a TV show. I know you don't like to watch TV shows, but this one is great, and um, it's basically about a guy who looks like a magician but isn't a magician at all. So uh, that's a funny part. But okay, so we're going to talk about trans issues um, because something happened to you, something weird. Do you want to,
Just a
to
little
talk
bit.
about it a little bit?
I don't want to say it was weird. By the way, did you post this on Twitter to advertise?
Yes.
Okay, good. Cindy was one of the first three people, one of the first four people to reach out to me after hearing me on Talk Heathen. And I remember, she was more than willing to like educate and take the time. And we spent a few different times on the phone, hours at a time, going over what I was missing. And she gave me a great deal of her time, and I'm always grateful to that. So I ended up inviting her. She also helped with my confidence as well. One of the things she said to me, which really has changed my outlook, when I first got into this, I would say, I'm not smart enough, I'm stupid, I'm this. And she made the distinction. She goes, no, you're smart. You're just lacking knowledge. And because you're lacking knowledge, it doesn't mean you're not intelligent. And that really has stuck with me and helped me to build a confidence that I lost. So thank you, Cindy. Um,
I'm glad.
with that being said, we started working together. She was a part of the first ever Global Atheist Roundtable that I had on my channel, and then after that, we did a full on interview. Well, would you say it's about 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago,
Almost three
I
weeks.
got an email from her brother. And to be clear, immediately from this, I messaged them and I said, look, I don't want to be talking about this behind Cindy's back. May I have your consent to share this with Cindy? And fortunately, he agreed, because let me tell you, if he had said I couldn't have gone to Cindy, that would have been like a moral dilemma. Because for me, privacy is important. I talk to a lot of people about a lot of personal things, and I don't ever want someone to feel like they have to worry about contacting me. So he agreed. I shared it with Cindy, and then another brother commented on the video, and then also messaged me on Facebook. Now, one of the things the first brother said, Norman, right?
Yeah.
Was we didn't reject Cindy. And then they went into this long explanation, but they were referring to Cindy on her with her dead name and still calling her a brother. So, like, while I somewhat understood what he was trying to say, I think he was missing the point, because in that very letter, he was doing exactly what she had said, rejecting Cindy Plaza and only accepting. Is your past name, dead name, public, or do you not want to use it?
I used it on the French video, so yeah, we can use
Oh,
it.
so they kept referring to Cindy as Cedric, and the brother, and just refused to acknowledge her pronouns. So when in my reply, I did include and said, look, um, based on what you're saying, it does indeed sound like you're rejecting Cindy, and here's why. And he was pleasant, and I understand. Like, what I did understand from him is that I'm not in that position. It's could be very difficult to go from having a brother to a sister. I was trying to put myself in his shoes and be like, okay, if my brother came out, how would I react? Yeah, it would take some time for me to acknowledge, no, sorry, for me to internally recognize that my brother transitioned to my sister. I understand that mistakes are going to happen, and from what I've gotten to know Cindy, I don't see her as the type to get upset by someone who just simply misspeaks. As long as they correct themselves and are trying. And that's, to me, what is one of the most important things um, with the trans community is just try. Like I've never been attacked or insulted for misgendering someone, especially when I apologize and recognize it. Most people are really, really understanding. I forgot where I was going with this. So he, while I get his emotions, he was still unwilling to acknowledge Cindy's transition. And I think at this point, the best thing the family can do, because while they may think it's difficult for them, they don't know what Cindy's feeling. They've never been born in a body that didn't match who they were. And I think it's important to put their own feelings aside, recognize that this is difficult enough for Cindy, and they need to focus on being more supportive of what she's going through.
So
Did I misspeak at all? If I'm
no, no,
incorrect
no, 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 no,
anywhere?
no, no, no. That was perfect. That was a perfect summary of what the mails contained. Uh, I'd like to point out first that this is not about criticizing them. It's not. I'm not going to say, "Oh, bad family, bad brother," etc. In fact, if there's one thing extremely clear in this email is that my brother loves me and he wants to try and solve that problem we have, and so because of that I cannot be mad at him, and I fully understand what he's going through. I understand that my family has trouble understanding what's going on. The only reason why I wanted to make that video is because he's using some arguments and some statements that trans people tend to hear quite often, and I wanted to address those claims, not my personal situation, not exactly what he wanted, what he thought, but what he said, and how we can help people in his situation to deal with these things he feels. So, as you said, since then, another brother contacted you and then me, and there's a big difference between the two of them. And the second one made me realize that I when I talk about this, I tend to speak very fast and just say they didn't accept me, and just move away from that. But
Well, and that's true. And while they can say they love you and they support you, the only way they can, from what I tell, truly accept you is by recognizing your transition and acknowledging your pronouns and to stop using Cedric. And to be clear, myself and Cindy, from what I can tell, none of us are saying anything bad about them. We're not trying to hate on them in any way. Clearly, the fact that they took the time to email us shows there is love and care there. I just think, and I hope, they will do their best to better understand what Cindy is going through and support her in any way possible.
yeah, I still think I should be careful in the way I say it, because when I say they didn't accept me or they rejected me, it sounds like it's finite and it's definitive. where in fact I know it's just temporary, and it will probably solve itself in time. And 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 that's this concept that I probably didn't express enough. This idea that yes, this is how the situation is right now, and I have to deal with it. But I don't think it will be like that forever. I
Right.
don't think, because when I say my brothers didn't accept me, it's like it's in the past, and it's like I say it's not going to change, and I think it's going to change. So that's what I wanted to point out, because it's pretty important.
Right.
So I'm going to read a little bit of the letters, of the email you received. So basically, he entered that attack as he perceived it. That I was saying that my family didn't accept me, and he wasn't happy with that, and so that's why he wrote the letter. So he says, I can't let him or her tell this about his family. I don't want to make a brothers' war, because that won't serve nobody. And I totally agree with this. I'm not at all trying to make a war either. The fact is that all this is hard for everyone, and I acknowledge that. Yes, it's hard for the family. It's hard for me as well. But and I think it's a little bit harder when the person who makes the transition is in a special place in the family, whether the oldest or the smallest one, because these places in brothers and sisters tend to have some additional emotional baggage. When you're the oldest brother, the youngest one tend to look up to you, and especially if you take care of them sometimes. And so there's this kind of pedestal you're put on sometimes, and this makes things harder when you tell them that no, that's this person you have in your mind, that's not me. So yeah, that's hard, and I understand it.
So let me ask you, how did you feel when I had contacted you and showed you like what your family had said?
Well, when I read the emails, the hard thing was that I felt his pain and his frustration behind the emails, and his love as well, and that's what was hard to me, because what he writes I already knew pretty much,
Right.
so it wasn't a big surprise. The surprise was that he wrote you in English. That was a big surprise.
Yeah, and
But
that can't be difficult. Like writing something that in depth
emotional, yeah.
and emotional in another language, like, and it was actually like he apologized several times for his language, but he did, I think, a really good job
Yeah.
of conveying
Yes.
what he was trying to say.
Yes. His English is pretty good compared to probably what he thinks it is. And yes, I really understand that it's been very hard for him, and that makes me think that his reaction to the idea that I think they rejected me is even stronger, because to make him do all of this to correct this simple idea, I realized how hard it was for him, and that's why I think going on. Well, I'm pretty sure that that won't last now that all this happened. But let's say the situation with them doesn't change. If I talk about it, I will talk about it very differently, and not use those words again, and temper it with saying that it's a temporary thing. I will
Right.
insist on that. So yeah, the fact is that all of this is hot for everyone. We all knew that Cedric was bad in his skin, and when he told me that he was going to change, the first thing I told him was, "Awesome! If it makes you happy, so it's perfect." And I even call him sister, and that's true. He sent me a very lovely short message after that, and it was really nice. But there is a rift between their initial response, which was very positive to all my brothers and my parents too, and then how it went while I was transitioning, while the changes started to be visible. Yeah, I agree, Duncan. People with English as a second language often think it is worse than it is. Sometimes those that speak only English think they do so better than they might actually do. And yeah, I agree with that.
That's actually slightly off topic.
Yes.
One thing that everyone kind of reads into what someone says a different way. And I think sometimes I've seen people within our community when they're dealing with someone with a language barrier and that person says something that triggers them, rather than recognizing that that person could be misspeaking and just not aware, they go full force, like, look at what you said, you did this. And it's like, whoa, some of these people are struggling to communicate in English. They could misspeak. So that's why I will continue to do my best to be a strong advocate for charitable and friendly listening.
Yes, and that's worse when the person speaks a very good English, because then you start forgetting that they're not a native speaker, and so yeah. So the thing is here, you have two very different type of reactions. I think when you learn that your big brother is going to change, you have this intellectual reaction. You say, he's my brother. I love him, and I really don't care what he's going to do. And that's just intellectual thinking. It's just how I think I should answer, and as a brother, as a member of my family, I should accept whatever she does. But then when you start changing, then you're confronted to your emotional response, which you didn't have to address in the first place, especially when there's years between the announcement and the first visible changes, which was the case here. There was maybe 4 years between the two of them. So yeah, I think it's one is an intellectual response and the other one is an emotional response. And as we know, as atheists who tend to deal with people who have a very hard time living their former beliefs, the emotional response is the hardest one to manage and to deal with. So he says that you have to see all the point of views, which is fair. Even for us, it was a long process to integrate the news. As I told you, my first reaction had been thinking about his feeling, and I still accept his choice. But the reverse must be true too, and that is the job he hasn't done.
Okay.
So they think my current reaction. So yeah, I forgot to give a little bit of context. So I told them about the change in 2014 or 15, I think. I had started the hormone treatment a year prior to that. The first surgery took place in October 2018. And I parted ways with my parents after the second surgery in April 2019. So that's now 2 years old. And so when he says the reverse must be true too, and that is a job he hasn't done, he means that I haven't given them enough time to accept the thing. And that's something my mother told me too. And I kind of disagree with that because, again, I told them 4 years before any change. And when I announced them, I told them, please, if you have any question, if there's anything you don't understand, call me, send me a message, and ask as many questions as you want, because I know that acceptance is based on understanding most of the time. And if you don't understand something, you will have a much harder time to accept it. So, but my mother asked me a couple questions, but that was all, and my brother didn't ask me anything. So it's hard for me to know what's preventing them from accepting this, because I don't know what's in their mind, because they didn't ask me any question, they didn't tell me anything. And there, yeah.
No, I'm listening. I said right.
And the reason why I say they didn't accept it is because when the changes started to be visible, I didn't hear anything about my brothers. And so it's true that
Like
in
they
my
didn't.
family,
Sorry, when the changes started being visible, you didn't, like, what do you mean you didn't hear anything from your brothers?
I no message, no message on Facebook or anything. It's
Okay.
we have a weird way of communicating in my family. We don't call each other as brothers most of the time. It's my mother who gathers the information from the different brothers, and then when I call her, she tells me about the others, and vice versa. So it's hard to say whether this is the cause or whether they didn't want to know. What I do know is that when they knew I was going to surgery and I was going to stay in the hospital for quite a while, nobody called me while I was in the hospital, except one of them, and he told me I need to mourn my old brother. So that was the hardest for me, and that's why I think that they didn't accept me as I was. It's because I think they weren't ready to face the fact that I was changing.
Right. And again, I don't, I'm sure it's very difficult for them, but the important thing is to, it's not about them. It's, in this scenario, it's about you and what you're going through, and making sure people need their, well, I can't say people need their families, but it makes a difference when the people you love and have been around accept you and validate you for who you are, rather than trying to, I don't want to say tear you down, but tearing you down sucks. But, like, we need support systems in place. And I just think Cindy's gone through enough. And, I think what I would love to say to her brothers is just accept her for who she is. You have, there is, you don't get a second chance when it comes to time. I lost my brother 10 years ago, and I would do anything for a second chance to, hug him and tell him how much I love him. Your sister is here right now and still with us. Let the things go and just show her the love and support that she deserves. Enjoy the time you have while you have it.
yeah, just hi skids, I IQ, good to have you there. So yeah,
Ooh,
I
Sydney, I just noticed you haven't made anyone a chat moderator. You might want to make someone a moderator so in case anyone ever makes like offhanded comments, you have someone that can take care of that.
yeah, I think I didn't do it so far because I didn't have the need to. My channel is not big enough to attract those kind of trolls yet,
It's getting
but
there. You'll get
yeah,
it.
when it happens, yeah. Yeah. So I was going to say that there is a psychological barrier somewhere in my brother's in my family's mind that prevents them to accept it fully, and they need to try and find what this barrier is, because otherwise this will make life harder for them forever, until they don't figure out why they have such a hard time understanding and accepting who I am. They won't understand, and it's going to be hard for them, because when you have someone you love and they're in a position where you cannot or don't talk to them, this eats you. You think about it all the time. You think about it when you're going to sleep, and it eats your sleep. It eats your mental health and everything. So you need to find what the problem is, and try and solve it. That doesn't. I'm not saying that people are crazy or this kind of things. Of course, when I did this video last week in French, I said at the end that please, if you are in this situation, if you are a family of someone who transitioned, if you really have a problem accepting it, go see a therapist, go see a psychologist, and talk with them and try to understand what's blocking you. And that's a genuine advice. It's not, yeah, you're crazy, go see a doctor. That's not what I mean. It's talking with someone who is not involved sometimes gives you a different perspective and helps you understand things in a different way, and including what you're thinking and what you're feeling. So seeing a therapist sometimes is life-saving sometimes. So yeah, I think it can be a situation. I'm not saying it's a situation in all cases, but it can be. So
Yeah, I'll be. When Cindy first asked me to do this, I was actually really hesitant because I'm just like, all right, I'm a straight cis white dude. I don't know that I am the person to be talking trans issues. But she said it was more about like how I was contacted and the interactions. So at that point, I was like, okay, I just for me, I never want to take the spot of somebody's else's voice who needs to be heard more and who knows more in this area.
yeah, the other reason why I wanted you here is because you have a show about mental health, and what we're talking about here impacts mental health.
Yes, it does.
So I think you have also a say in this, not because you're a specialist, as you very often say, but because people come to you with problems like this, and I thought it would be positive thing for you to talk about this. That's also why I got you
Right.
here. So there's one thing that he says right after that. He says, if you try to put you in our position, the fact that he transformed means for us that the entity of Cedric was going to die. I'm really talking about the entity, not the person. Is very different. So that's something trans people very often hear, that the old you has to die for the new you to be born. And I don't see how that could be true, because I understand that for those people, from their point of view, they see two very different people. But for us, from the inside, we're still the same person. We still have the same feelings. We still have the same memories. We still have the same intellect. We still have the same way of thinking. We are still the same people. And it's even worse than that, because this image they have of the big brother, big sister, little brother, little sister, that's a fabrication. It's a mask, because they didn't know what I was until I told them. And for all this time, I had a mask on to pretend I was a guy. And so this image of the big brother they have, it's only 50% of who I am in first place. So until they understand that the image they have is half of the puzzle of the people we are, they won't understand that we are still the same person.
Yeah, it's like they're thinking you're somebody completely different, visibly. Well, let me think about this a little bit more before I go into that. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Then he says, and that is the problem. We can and we must accept his decision, but he had to accept that for his family, he will stay a brother. And that's the biggest problem I have with everything he said, because all the rest I can understand and I can accept it, that it will take time to understand. But this is not acceptable. To say that for them I will still be a brother, I think that's the idea that prevents them from seeing me as I am now. Because as long as they will not be able to change this image they have of a big brother, and think that I'm still their brother even now, then it will be impossible for them to accept me. And you cannot say you will still be my brother, and at the same time I accept you as a woman, because it's contradictory.
Right. I agree. I being in your situation cannot be easy, especially when they're, from what I can tell, not trying very hard to understand and accept you. But I hope they do, and hopefully this conversation and continuing these conversations on trans issues will help get these people from point A to point B and make them more compassionate and understanding of what's going on.
I think they're trying hard from their own point of view. They just have issues understanding some things, and that's why I do these videos, because I hope to help them understand, and other people in this situation understand what's going on and how they can shift their their way of thinking to understand it better. That's the only reason why I do these videos.
Right.
So then you answer, and you already summed up what you said, so I'm not going to read your message again. So after your answer, he says, you said we are rejecting Cindy. It's half true. The decision that Cedric takes changing on CD is respectable. To be honest, I had doubt until yesterday when I saw the video. And this doubt, I think, is only because of the fact that they didn't see me while I was changing. So I don't think too much about this doubt. I think it's just a consequence of this situation where we are in, them and me, and I think it's normal to have those doubts, because you understand that it's a big choice, big change to make into your life,
Right.
and until you see any physical change, any change in the hair, the dressing, the makeup, and etc. Until you see any change, then it's hard to conceive it and to accept it. That I understand. So yeah, I don't really mind when he says I had doubt until yesterday, because I think it's fair. I think I never saw him with such a big smile than on those videos,
That made
and
me
that's
very happy.
yeah, me too, me too, and that's certainly thanks to Sinji, and so I'm going to keep up because that's linked. That's why I can say that he made the wrong decision, but in another way, we can force he can force us to say that we now have a new sister. So he seems to think that there are two different persons, one before and one after, and I think that's part of the problem why people tend to have problems accepting a transition. It's because we live in a society where male and female are opposite, and so we have a lot of trouble accepting and understanding that one could be changing from one to another. So thinking that it's two different person makes this understanding probably easier.
Right. I still make that mistake sometimes. I'll say the opposite gender, and even some of my posts I'll do that, and I am trying very hard to correct that language, because it's not very inclusive. And um for most of my life, it was the whole, science only has two genders thing. Just actually a few days ago, I got into a small heated Facebook discussion with this guy that was insisting it. And I was like, okay, one, science doesn't actually support there being only two genders or sexes. But his reason, his justification was, well, when you go to the doctor's office, it says male or female. And that's what the box's choice are. So I was like, okay, so are you implying that because a box on a form says male or female, that means it's true? And he dug his heels in, said, yeah, you whiny snowflake, I don't care what you want to be, but you're either a man or a woman. It's like, and this, when it comes to trans and guns and mental health and employment and healthcare, right wings seem completely adverse to nuance or a deeper discussion. It's a lot of them, their positions are just soundbite politics. Get a job, just get over it, just tough it out. Like, there's no meaningful exchange or no critical thought involved. It's just, nope, this is how it is. And it's sad, really, because one thing I've learned, and I'm still guilty of it, there's times I'll make posts and I'll have a friend who's watching right now and will send me a message. And even if it's something like how do I explain this? Even though politically we're on the same side, he'll still pose these challenges to me and be like, was this useful? Like, you got your soundbite out, but is it helping or is it hurting? And I've noticed, like, he's helped me grow as a person in that way, where I'm less quick to just like post something and try to recognize that there's always a lot more to it than being completely simple. Is that making sense, or am I poorly explaining it?
No, it makes total sense. Yeah.
So for me, I would encourage everybody to understand that there's most conversations, there's a lot more to it, particularly, MMA and trans issues. So, for one, I did go from, Christian to atheist, from Republican to liberal to socialist, but up until, let's say, 2020, I was completely opposed to trans in MMA. I just assumed it was unfair, and I was wrong. Like, this is one area where my opinion has changed dramatically, and while I may not know enough and not have a conclusive answer on what needs to be done, I know the answer is to not just say trans women or trans men can't compete, because one of the arguments I've seen against it is the biological differences and how it's not fair. Well, let's look at that for a second. There are men I've competed against in strongman where it's just not fair. I was doing the same stuff, the same routines, and at times working out even better, more knowledgeable, and I just could not keep up with them.
Yep.
They had a biological advantage, one that I could not catch. So, is it fair for me to be competing against them when there's clearly no way for me to catch up? So, to me, we need to learn more. And at some point, sports will need to adapt, because there are some men who shouldn't be competing against other men because they just won't have a chance, because someone else's body is way more receptive to building mass or getting quicker. So there needs to be some type of, in my opinion, some type of maybe divisions where you're tested and you find out where like all your levels are, your bone density, all that, and then you're put, regardless of men, women, or gender, you're put in a group that you're aligned with, and then you compete at that level.
Yes, and those criteria need to be changed depending on the sport, because each sport requires different attributes in muscles, in weight, in blood capacity, lung capacities also. So yeah, I think that's the right way. I forgot what I was going to say. But yes, I totally agree with you. This needs to change if we want to. The problem is it will divide the categories of sports. If you do that with football, for example, you will have different leagues for different levels, and that will make viewers less important for each category. And right now, the sports try to do the opposite, try to mix up as much as possible to get as many viewers as possible, to get the biggest contracts for TV rights. And so, yeah, you spoke about genetic advantages. Michael Phelps is a great example for that. He has a natural ability to get rid of the toxins your muscles produce when you're exercising. And he produces 10% less of those toxins. So it means he can train and then perform almost 10% longer than the other people. And that's seen as a miracle, as a big advantage, and that's great for him. But when it's Castemania, for example, who has some kind of intersex, we don't know exactly what she has, because it's not public, but we know that many people say she has an advantage because she has a higher level of testosterone than regular women. And so she's been canceled for everything, and now the Olympic communities, they ask her to take medication to lower her testosterone levels so she can compete with women. that's just insane. And not only in itself to ask someone to take medications to change their body so they can compete, but also the difference of perception and discussion between the two cases. That's yes, lactic acid. Yes, that's what he doesn't have resistance to it. He produces less of it, from what I understood.
Okay.
Yeah. So, did we have something else to say about the letter?
I mean, from my point, I think I covered everything I wanted to say, but I'm happy to cover whatever else you'd like to go over.
No, because in the end, he talks about our memories together and how these memories make it hard for him to see me as a woman, because he sees me as a big brother who taught him so many things, and that I understand. Because
Are
again,
you
as I said
the
earlier,
oldest?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, as I said earlier, these places in the family tree, they have additional baggage, emotional baggage. So yes, I understand it makes it harder in my case than it would be maybe in someone who is in the middle.
Right.
But saying that, he says, that's why, yes, we can't say that we have a sister overnight for two reasons. The first is that it's not true. And the second is that calling him Cindy, and it's even more difficult for the brothers, it means officially the death of Cedric. And the problem is that we don't know if Cindy signifies the death of Cedric or if Cindy and Cedric are the same person. So, of course, I am the same person. I didn't change, and except physically, but inside I'm still the same person.
Yeah, you were. Well, is it okay? So would it be technically correct to say you were born a woman, you just didn't know it? Is that an accurate statement? Or
No,
no?
I knew it. They didn't know.
Okay. Well, hopefully they will come to recognize that while Cedric taught them a lot, it was really Cindy the entire time.
Yes, yes, that's the exact message I wanted to pass here. It's that the person they knew is it's like a shadow of the person I really was.
Right.
And because of that, they it would be easier for them to understand and accept this if they saw this the way you just said it. It's that they the big brother they had was just a mask I was wearing all this time, and now I'm just dropping the mask. That's the only thing. But inside I stay the same. When you wear a mask, it doesn't change who you are behind it. It just changes the perception people have about you.
Right.
Okay, so we're approaching the end of this show. I would like to thank you again very much, Ethan, for coming here. I understand it was a little bit hard for you to talk about this because you don't want to talk about something you don't know anything about,
True.
and I understand that. So it's even bigger of you to have come anyway. So thank you very very much. I just wanted to point out that the irony that we met because of transgenders parents who were having problems with their child, and now we're here again to talk about families
Right.
problems.
Wow.
And
That's it came full circle, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah. So
I thank you very much for having me on and considering me for this conversation.
yeah, my pleasure.
Is that the kitty?
Yes, she's. I
Oh,
don't know why she's complaining lately, but
she wants
she's been
attention.
doing. No, I think she's calling for her children because she had three kittens, and in the last few days I let the door open so they can go out and in whenever they want, and sometimes there's one outside and two inside, so she's not comfortable when they're separated like this.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why she's calling them, I think. So where can people find you, Ethan?
So youtube.com/YFN atheist, or you can just search your friendly neighborhood atheist. I'm on YouTube. I'm also available on all podcast platforms like Apple, Castbox, Android, um, pretty much anywhere. Also on Twitch, same thing, twitch.tv/YFN atheist. Um, so I host a variety of different shows, one of which I'm actually pulling back from. So The Perspective. It's every Tuesday. It's a weekly call-in show where we tackle supernatural and paranormal claims, belief in aliens, conspiracy theories, and lately we're even accepting like political claims. So we're pretty much open to anything, and we put a skeptic's lens on it. However, I since moving, I'm trying to get my brain organized, and it's been very scattered. And the more I bring on other co-hosts and guests for this program, uh, the more I want to focus on them and less on me. I'm really proud of that show, and I believe in what it can be. But at this time, I think it's better with some of these other co-hosts. They can contribute in a way that I can't necessarily do because of the knowledge I'm lacking, um, which I'm fine with. I get to work with some great people who are always willing to come on again and again, and it's awesome. And then Thursdays, I have the pickup line with Hannah Vaughn, where we talk relationships, sex, and dating. Yesterday, we covered funny sex stories. And then lastly, every Sunday with Jenna Belk, we do a show on mental health. But then, sorry, Saturday, we're doing Atheist Movie Night. So Kenneth Leonard Brainbug will be on the channel, and we'll be watching Lee Strobel's Case for Christ and live reacting/reviewing it.
And you changed the time of the Ethan and Jenna show.
Oh, yes. So, for those who don't know, Eric Murphy and Vila Bianca started a new call-in show called Skeptic Generation. So we worked with them. We decided to move our time slot 1 hour earlier. So we'll be from 10 to 11:30, then jump over to Skeptic Generation from 11:30 to 1, then over to Talk Heathen from 1 to 2:30, then Nonprofit
Non-profit.
from 3 to 4-ish, 4:30, and then after that, close out the night with AXP at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Sundays is definitely one of the busiest and most active days in the atheist community.
Yeah. So I would like to address something Duncan said in the chat. And by the way, I would like to thank everyone who was here. So Puck, Duncan, IQ, Kyle. So Duncan said, still learning to drop using guys as a catch call. My apologize. So
Ooh.
I'm not a native speaker, but I don't see that as a problem, to be honest. Guys is just a word you use to talk about a group of people. So
Right.
I never had any problem with being called guys when I'm with other people. I really don't see it as a problem.
Yeah, I don't, but either. But that's also very easy for me to say because I'm a straight cis dude. So I still use it, but I use it sparingly because I know not everyone's okay with that. Same with dude. While I recognize dude as gender neutral, and I think from my experience most do, there are some who don't like it and they view it as a male pronoun. So again, to me, the biggest thing is just asking. Like, I have more laid back lingo, so I'll always be sure to be like, "Hey, are you okay with dude?" Because that's what I use for everyone. If they're not okay, I just don't use it. So same with pronouns. All you have to do is ask. I do it more and more. Like if I'm, I was talking to someone at the store and I was going to purchase some stuff from them, and I just didn't know. So I said, "Hey, may I ask what your pronoun was?" And she was very happy I asked. And I don't think there's any harm in doing that for the most part. Of course, there will be some people that will get offended, but you can't please everyone. Thank you again
Sure.
for having me, Cindy.
Thank you for being here, and see you next time.
See you later.